Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the men's room. Got Taylor, Tehran, and Larry joining us today for a special episode to talk about love. I guess I've been feeling in the mood to talk a little bit about love. I know this episode's not coming out until the end of March, but it's the week after Valentine's Day, so I know it's kind of fresh on all of our minds. So before we get started, though, let's just do some general check-ins. How's life been going, boys? Taylor, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Classes are going well. Kids, growing up quickly. And yes, Valentine's Day, obviously good times.
What's your split on classes right now? How many are in person? How many are online? What are you dealing with class these days?
I have 4 in person and 3 online.
Well, that's quite a load. 7 classes. All right, cool.
Classes.
I'm used to 8, so,
That's
feels
a
light right
load.
now.
Light semester.
That's a load,
yeah.
man. The life of a faculty member. Well, good to see you, Taylor. Tehran, we missed you last week, man. You were out reffing or something. What's going on?
Yeah, I was reffing, and then the week was going great till you reminded me that I missed Valentine's Day. I didn't realize what we were in the month. No, I'm kidding.
He's
No,
like, I was reffing that night. I don't know. We didn't do anything.
I actually was reffing that night, which is
I'm
crazy.
sure. Friday night.
But luckily, Dee and we actually haven't done anything. We don't celebrate Valentine's Day. I actually years ago we used to do little things here and there, and she was like, "Dude, can we just skip this part? Like this is let's just hang out and watch movies or something, right?" So that's our Valentine's Day tradition. But so everything's been great on this end, man. All things considered, I won't complain too terribly much. I could, but nobody's listening anyway. So I'm going to try to focus in on the silver lining, the things that I can't control.
I love it. Cool. Well, good to see you, Tehran. I'm glad you're here. I think your dryer's done, so time to fold some clothes, maybe.
Yeah.
Somebody's dryer's done.
That was my bad.
Oh, no, it's cool. I don't care. It's just a reminder that it's there. I know.
You're
I got clothes to fold. Larry, how you doing, my man?
Doing well. I just got back from our company's big retreat, which was a lot of fun. See people in person and good old Tucson, Arizona. It was beautiful there, much warmer than it is here in Georgia now. But literally the last day, my travel day, I was in bed with 101-degree fever. So I'm recovering from that. Unless many of the people in the company got sick, so we're hanging in there though. I think I'm 100% now. Still, my energy's
That's good.
Waning a little bit, but we're making it. We're making it. So yeah, been good.
I do not handle fevers well. I turn into a full-on baby. I don't know. I'm in bed, got the aches. I'm crying for mom. It's not good, guys. I'm almost 40. I'm still yelling for my mom. I don't know.
Man flu is, they joke with us about it, but I lean into it. I get the sniffles and I'm like,
yeah,
please.
The man cold is
the worst is flying with
debilitating.
it too. I flew back from Arizona that day, and I hate flying already, especially with all the crazy stuff that's been happening with planes lately. But it was by far the worst flying experience I've ever had because my ears didn't pop for a whole other day afterwards. It was not ideal.
Yeah, that's not good.
Here we are.
I feel you.
Here we are.
On top of being sick.
And the whole time you're just sitting there thinking I'll be in my bed in 3 hours. Come on, just make it home. Just don't end up flipped over on this plane. Yeah, the plane stuff's been scary lately. I'm not gonna lie to you. I usually love flying, but I don't know.
Yeah. I got a couple flights coming up.
Be careful, man.
We'll see if I'm on future podcasts.
Right.
Sorry, that's nope. See, we shouldn't do see that part.
Well, hey, if you go and I've got this clip to use on the podcast, I think it's really going to take off, to be honest with you. So, I mean,
was that a pun?
I don't know. I'm just saying,
see, dad joking and
you like that.
That's
all
good.
right, guys. Well, as we agreed to, we're going to talk about love today. So I was hoping we might be able to just check in a little bit. Oh, timeout. What's up?
Timeout on the play.
What?
The three of us went around. We talked about our week. You did not, sir. You don't get to skip
It's been a stressful week. There's no doubt. There's got some kids going through some stuff at school pretty regularly. I was sharing a little bit before we started. I got called to the school. My daughter was on top of the cabinets when I got there, right? So got called out of a meeting. She's on top of it, and you're being watched by teachers, and you're trying to figure out how am I supposed to respond here? I got to get out of this school as quickly as I can. But now I'm glad it's Friday, Tehran. And now,
Amen.
We've been talking a little bit about love songs. I think I'm going to have a few beverages tonight, maybe sing some Truly, Madly, Deeply. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. I'm looking forward
to the moon
to
and back. What about that one?
Let me some Savage Garden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we normalize our kids maybe having an issue at school or someplace public, and we have to go and address it, and we determine which mask we're going to wear in
Yeah.
that moment, right? Like,
Which
how
dad does
scared
she
can
need
we
right
be?
now?
Will we be? It's a
Yeah.
lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
It is. It
It is a lot.
Yeah.
And you're trying, like, I wanna just show up in the right way and respond in the right way developmentally. Right? I've read all the articles. I know I'm not supposed to raise my voice, but when I walk in and like you're on top of the cabinets and you tipped over the garbage can and you kicked your teacher or something, like, man, you got to channel that inner peace and just a little woo-saw. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough also just to talk about. I think kids and the problems and the behavior issues or whatever you run into, because it's such a vulnerable place to put yourself out there. We all got challenging situations with our kids, but man, it's certainly, you feel like you're being judged when that stuff's happening. Like it's some sort of reflection completely on your parenting style if your kid's having a hard time.
1000%, man. We just
Shouldn't
navigate best we can. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
Real.
all you can do.
that's it.
Real.
And you hope that other parents that might be looking on, where we might be assuming that they're making judgments, hopefully they're like, been there. I know, I know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
with you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's the only thing we really hope for.
Yeah, Keelan and I always enjoy when we get to the store and we see some other parent dealing with a tantrum and we're like, okay, thank God it's not
Right.
just us. Like, not that I'm wishing it on those parents, but I'm a little like, all right, cool. Like, maybe my
Yeah.
kids are...
Helps
It's all
normalize
right.
it.
Yeah, for
That's right.
sure.
That's right.
For sure.
Feel less alone in that, maybe.
So I appreciate you stopping me, making sure I answered the question. Thanks, Tron. So I want first, folks are still getting to know us. This is only episode 2. It's just getting released. So why don't we start off by just sharing a little bit about your relationship with your partner? I know each of you is married. Keelan and I will be celebrating 15 years, I think, this summer, this June, which is, again, crazy. That's something that that's a big number. That's it's a really big number. So we're celebrating 15 years. I've got 2 kids. Yeah, just want to kind of share. Keelan and I started dating in high school. We broke up once. I cheated on a chemistry test. Now, she always very slowly says that chemistry test part. I did cheat. I saved some formulas on my graphing calculator. I still failed the test. Keelan is rules, man. And when she found out I cheated on that test, even though I failed, she was done with me. After that, it was just, she still hung out with me, you know what I mean? But we weren't formally dating. So anyway, so that's kind of, 15 years now, happily married. So
Sounds
Why don't you
resourceful to me.
how about you guys? Anybody beat 15?
I mean, we've been together longer than 15, I think, but not married as long as you. I remember going to your wedding, by the way. That was
Yeah,
excellent times.
that's right. A Sunday in a casino. It was a lot cheaper to
Yes.
get married on a Sunday in a casino, for sure. Yeah, very fun. Cool.
See, it will be this year. We've been married for 14 years in June. Nope, I'm wrong. Jessica, hopefully not listening to this. July 9th, actually, 2011. I missed that one. That's not good. 14 years. We've been together since 2007, though. So 17 years, like, dating for a long time. We met in college at a fraternity party, a Santa's Little Helper party. So that's good. We were all dressed in Santa garb and elf garb, and I made fun of her because she was wearing leggings before leggings were like a big thing. And so that's where our friendship kind of blossomed. And then she wouldn't date me for 9 months. She said she had baggage from a high school breakup. And so I was friend zoned for a long time. And anybody knows me and her in college, they will remember the many arguments that we had, usually after a couple of beverages in the front yard of someone's house, yelling at each other about why won't she date me? I'm the best thing you're ever gonna find. You should date me. And all these literally every party ended in that way. And eventually someone convinced her to give me a shot, and we've been together ever since. So here we are.
Very cool. That's a good story. There's probably a great picture I need to see of Santa's helpers that met that night, maybe.
Goodness gracious. Those,
You better hope I don't get my hands on those,
fraternity
Larry.
social pictures. There's many of them that I am very embarrassed that I wore what I was wearing that day.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Hey,
That's
Larry,
beautiful.
man, tell me there's like footage of you with like a stereo holding it over your head, right? Yelling up to the second floor dorm room.
Right.
Why won't you date me?
Honestly, I bring it up to her all the time too. It's one of the things that I just hold over her head. Like, those 9 months, I'll never let you forget about it.
Yeah.
But
We could have been together 19 years by
Exactly.
now, but you ruined it.
good times indeed.
Oh, that's beautiful. Tehran, I got to witness a little bit of your love
Yeah,
blooming,
man.
but tell me about you and D.
Yeah. So in high school, so D and I, we're coming up on our 14th year, August 5th. So I would like the record to reflect that I said the date, time, and year without stuttering, without worry.
Impressive.
I didn't have to check this little computer that we have in our pockets.
You better double check that you're right. I mean,
let me double
it's
check.
great.
Now I'm standing on business. I better be right. I
Right.
better
Yeah.
be right, man. But so my professor a teacher in high school told me that I was going to be going to a predominantly white college. And he said he recommended that I go out on social media and find as many black folk as I could to create a little community as I navigated that world. And so I went out on the social media site that shall not be named, but you used to need a college ID in order to get access to it.
Oh,
And
those were the best days. Those
yeah,
were the best days.
and I just went out and started friend requesting folks, and I met D. We talked for about a month and a half over instant messenger and social media, and then we actually met on my very first day on our campus. So I was supposed to be registered for classes at summer orientation. So I actually know the date. It's July 20 was the first day we actually met in person. I was supposed to be getting my class schedule, but instead I was girlfriend hunting. So, clearly had the priority set.
Makes sense.
Distracted.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? I
Important
saw
things
her.
first.
Absolutely. I saw her sitting across the quad. And I had my pick of the litter, but I pointed to her and I said, you will do.
I had my pick of the litter.
I'll have you now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's exactly how that went.
It was such a cute love, you guys. So I was at
it was
St. Thomas at the
beautiful.
time. This guy, D was a great basketball player, and he was always sitting at half court, first row, dribbling a ball between his legs, being the biggest supporter. They'd have breakfast every morning. I mean, the bar was set high back then. I had to try and live up
Man,
with Keelan to what Tehran was doing, the whining and dining you had going on, Tehran.
I'll tell you what, when you have access to as many fake flex meal dollars as I did, you
Buy
splurge a
breakfast
little
every
bit.
day.
Okay?
Exactly.
Okay, you show up, all right?
I love it. I love it. Well, cool. Well, I appreciate y'all taking the time to share that. So first, we can't talk
wait,
about
did Taylor?
love. Yeah, Taylor did, but he didn't really. He got off a little easy. He was just like, "Oh, we've been married, and we've known each other longer." I think. You got anything else to share, Taylor?
Sure. We met in grade school, actually, second or third grade.
Been in love ever since.
Saw those beautiful blue eyes, but it
Respect.
took until college to win her over, I guess you could say. The only B I got was the class I had with her in psychology, I should say.
Oh,
I got other worse grades, but in psychology, I was the only B. I was slightly distracted, like you talked about, Tehran.
Were you dating at that point?
Not at
Or
that
trying.
point. Oh, well,
Not yet.
yes, we started to
Okay.
in college, yeah, at community college. But we've been together 20 years and
3 kids.
yeah,
Doing
3
the
kids
thing.
now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doing the thing. So we've definitely got a group of guys that all have these long marriages, really. I mean, we're getting older, but successful marriages. Well, let's start off by talking about music. Like when I think of love, I think of love songs. So to kick this off, the chat lit up with Tehran the moment that I mentioned we were going to talk a little bit about our favorite love songs. Tehran, you got to kick us off, man. You had all the jams lined up.
Yeah, I led with Juvenile, Back That Ass Up, and then that was a joke. But
I don't know, but it's a good
Was it
one.
that?
I mean,
Nah,
it's
was
a
it-
certain kind of love.
Right,
that song transcends time and space. I don't think there's a more I don't think there's a more prevalent sort of intro outside of maybe Baby Shark that gets a whole room kind of lit right then and there in that moment.
Yeah.
So, it came to mind pretty easily. But I will say it depends on the era you find me in, right? Like the time in life that you find me. My one, though, that I tend to constantly go back to. It's an R&B song by a guy named Music Soul Child. It's called Don't Change. And
It's a
the
good song.
idea, yeah, man, the idea is that, I don't care if your hair is gray. I don't care if you gain a little weight. I don't care. Whatever changes, right? Like the way we are together, like that's gonna be the thing that I hold most closely
Yeah.
to. So the love don't gotta change. Like everything else might, but the love that stays the same. It grows and gets better. So
I love
That's
it.
my joint. That's my go-to.
I love it. Is that at all your? What's your? You and D have a song?
So our wedding song, we were between that and Casey and JoJo All My Life, and we ended up going
Yeah,
with All
that's
My Life, right? So
Classic.
we went
classic
there,
right
right?
there.
But Don't Change was like the close second, super close second.
Yeah, beautiful.
Shout out
Beautiful.
Casey and JoJo.
Man,
Oh,
got
yeah,
it.
that was excellent.
Yeah, I
Those were
love
the
it.
days
Cool.
right
Well,
there.
those are a couple of solid songs. What do you guys think? What Taylor or Larry?
So yeah, our wedding songs were All of Me and Thinking Out Loud, and those are two
All
Love
of
it.
Me.
Love
pretty
it.
good songs. I Want to Know What
Should've
Love
made- I
Is
should've
what I
made you
use in
guys all
class when I
sing
talk
a
about it.
portion of these.
Wow.
Man, my
I don't know
mic
about
just started to
that.
cut out.
I
It's
say,
weird.
I
All
feel
of
like
Me, like John Legend.
no one's
Yep,
gonna listen to that.
Yep, John
That's a good
Legend,
one.
All of Me. Yeah.
John
give up that
Legend's
one?
the best.
Hey, yeah, see?
It is.
Dude, I'd be lying to
intro's
you if
good.
I didn't say All of Me definitely pops up for me in the shower a few times.
Yeah, you sing.
There's
Oh, go
nothing
ahead,
like
Chad.
singing
Go
some
ahead.
John Legend. I love it.
So
That's good.
Too
Okay.
good. Too good.
Cool. I love it.
Great song.
How about
let's
you,
see.
Larry?
For me, our wedding song, I mean, a throwback to old school Rascal Flatts. God Bless Broken Road was our
Yeah.
wedding
Yeah, that's a good
song.
song.
You know, I think it's a great representation of the ups and downs leading me to Jessica. And again, connecting to those 9 months when she didn't date me. So again, holding that over her head forever. And then
that is the broken road. She
right.
tried.
Right, exactly. Yeah, get it. Come on. And then there's a new one by this artist called Mark Embor called Belong Together. It's like a singer-songwriter kind of poppy hit, and it's really catchy, and it talks about just like it really describes the relationship that Jess and I have, which is really, you know, it's that friend with love kind of piece, how we both fit together, sweet tea, all this kind of Southern vibe to it too. So I really enjoyed that song. I think that's one that I play for her a lot. So yeah.
I love it. You guys got any love songs that just kind of send you back to a place or remind you of something? I put it out on Facebook today. I was asking folks, I said we were going to record an episode about love, asking folks what song sends them back, and got some good responses. People were talking about it sent them back to like their first love at 16 or something like that. It's hard for me. I had one girlfriend before Keelan in high school, right? And so we had a song, and I love that song. It went with Armageddon, if you might remember.
Yeah.
So now I can't even play that song because I didn't know my future wife would know that my high school girlfriend and I had that song. But you got any songs that just kind of send you back?
Me,
Truly Madly Deeply. I mean,
Truly Madly
sure.
Deeply. That does remind me of
It's a good one.
slow
That is a
dancing
good
back
one.
in the day. You know.
So I'm
Feeling
gonna
like
date
that.
myself by not dating myself a little bit because it's not my era. I grew up with music, right? Like I grew up with my grandparents and my mother's music, and so a song that always hits me in the chest is "Midnight Train to Georgia" by Gladys Knight, and I didn't know why it had such a profound like impact on me because when I was younger I didn't understand it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I got older that I understood the gravity of it, because at the end of the song, right at the end of the song, Gladys is explaining that like the life that he has right here just isn't working, so he's got to go back to what he knows. He has to leave, and you know, you can see that in the song she's like grappling with it, right? At the end she says, well, guess what, I'm going too. Like our thing is so strong, like, and that's what it is, right? Like the sacrifice that like love will sometimes pull out of us, right? Like he's going back to the things that he's known, but her love for him is so deep that she's willing to walk away from the things that she currently knows to be with him and support him in his dream. Now, I think both sides of relationships need a little bit of that give take, right? And that sacrifice of one another.
Definitely.
And I think that's why that song always transports me to a different place around, you know, expectations of love, for sure.
Just remind me, Teron, that half the songs I sang when I was a kid, I didn't really understand the lyrics and what I was singing. So I think it's a great example of that. I did not
That's
know
right.
that was the story of that song till right now. So here we are.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I think
that goes in a lot of directions.
A song that comes to mind when it comes to love, because I think it came out when I was like 11 or 12, right? When you're figuring out like what the heck love is. But also Titanic, My Heart Will Go On, like Celine Dion, when she starts belting that song, I'm like, oh, like bringing me back to those days. Like, I think it's one of those classic, random, teen love songs that I often think about. When I hear it, it brings me back to some of my first like middle school girlfriends. You thought you knew what love was back then when you were like, you know, trading random things or you know, sharing a jacket or holding hands in the hallway.
But
Love
those
was
are
so much more
times,
simple back in. Those are simple back in the
dude.
day, right?
Those were
Yeah.
exciting times with love. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? I remember going to
100%.
like 8th grade dances at Rock Falls Middle
Yeah.
School. You know, we'd have our 6th grade social studies teacher was the DJ, and he was playing some Boys to Men. Like,
Right.
you got that dancing where your arms are like way out,
Yeah.
you're maybe
Yeah.
touching the hips a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
when
those
you're
are some exciting times
when
with love.
when you're passing notes, like remember like writing notes to a girl
Yes,
in
Yes.
school,
notes
like
were
will you
Are
date
you
me? Take yes
interested?
or no. Yeah,
Yeah.
those were the
Pretext.
days.
That's the pretext message.
And now you think
Absolutely.
about,
Right.
like, I know we've all been in relationships for a long time, but I talk to like my single friends or people who are dating. I would hate to be dating or trying to find love right now. It just
Oh, yeah.
sounds like
Not
a
for me.
headache. Not a thing for me.
Yeah.
No.
It's all online now, I feel like, majority.
Too much.
And that
Too
would be
much.
tough. That's a mixed bag and can of worms. And yeah.
Yeah. We don't have anybody in this group that met online, really. I mean, Tehran
that's-
sort of, but not really.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I think that is really common, and certainly not anything to be ashamed of for anybody. But I think a lot of times people have a hard time telling that story of like, oh, we
Yeah.
met on Bumble. Like, oh, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
no big deal. That's how it happens now. I get it.
I'm just not built for it. Like,
No.
like not it's not even like the there's a hierarchy of what's the best way. I just know, like, myself personally, I'm not built for that sort of like engagement in that way, trying to like deeply connect through this box. Like, it's just I don't have the tools I think necessary to navigate. So like I told D, yo, this is it. Like, we in this. So like I got no other options, kid. Like, this is it.
Right.
Yeah. It took the first one, and I held on and hoped she
Check.
didn't realize she could do better. And that's
That's
just
right.
where we've
Right.
been.
That's
That's
right.
so
That's
well
right.
said.
That's beautiful. Well, the songs conversation and thinking back to what love meant in middle school, I think that's what's cool, is to think about songs. There's different songs over the decades that kind of change. I think back, Larry, I kind of make fun of myself about God Bless the Broken Road, because I remember in college just like, I don't know, probably weeping over that song at some point.
Right.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think back and I'm like, man, I was 19. Like, what broken road did you think you had been through at that point? But when you're in those moments, like, music impacts you at different times, and love changes over time. And I think your idea of love changes. When I was, we've spent the better part of this talking about romantic love, but there's a lot of different kinds of love. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. So let's just kind of explore, what do you all think? How has your idea changed as it relates to love? Has it changed over time? Or let's talk a little bit about the different kinds of love that you experience.
For sure. When I was a kid, I remember my little brother, he told a friend, "I love you," and I was kind of like, thought that was a little bit strange at the time. Looking back at it now, it's like we need more love in the world, not less. And so, yeah, love for humanity, love for people and things, and yeah, it's changed a lot.
Absolutely. That's a really great example. My willingness and ability to say I love you to another man, a friend, has really changed over time, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've got a friend that we went to high school with, Taylor, that recently was working at the Department of Ed anyway, has lost his job. And I was just kind of like talking to him the other day, and I like, there's the only thing I could really say is like, man, I love you. Like, I'm sorry you're going through this, and I'm here for you. I know we don't talk as much. And just that willingness to kind of open up in that way. I think in high school, I never would have been able to tell a guy friend that I love him, right? For a variety of reasons, with where we were in the world when all of us were in high school. And it's not like we're in a different place in the world or anything like that. But as my comfort level has gotten better as I've gotten older with doing that.
I would be so curious to know, like, ask my dad, like, did you ever tell your friends? You know what I mean? Just because I do feel like the way that men talk to each other has changed quite a bit. That's how it seems anyway.
That I honestly, when you started talking about the idea of the concept of this podcast, this is kind of immediately where my head went, was like this idea of how we can evolve and mature into and almost like tear down some of these walls around what masculinity is or what it should be, right? Because I think that's one of the things that's held us back from like fully experiencing love, which is actually a detriment to us, right? Like, not to mention the folks that we haven't shared the love outwardly with, but when we deny ourselves the opportunity, the ability to like feel the love and share that love, right, we're doing ourselves a disservice too. And so I think it's taken time though for us to be able to fully kind of wrap our heads around the sentiment that it's okay, right? Like for me growing up, like I expected my grandma and my mom to say stuff like, I love you. I didn't expect the males in my family to do that sort of thing. And it's so interesting because there's this quote out there that says, people who were raised on struggle live differently than people who were raised on love. And so like my kids will come up to me and like hug me and they'll say they love me and they'll be like, you're the best dad ever. And like, you haven't done the proper research, but you know, like you don't have enough of a sample size to even to say something like that. But
Just
like
take
they
it though.
believe it.
That's good.
They believe it though. You know what I mean? Like they think that's the case. And so like I have a hard time because of my relationship or former relationship with love. I have a hard time even believing that I've can give that love, let alone deserve that love. You know what I mean?
Accept
So
it.
like
Yeah.
that's where a lot of my stuff has like started to grow and develop, and knowing that like I am allowed, right, to demonstrate that love. And just like y'all, like I got a text message chain of 2 days ago. I sent it out to some of my guys I went to college with. Say, hey man, we ain't connected in a while, but just want to let you know, love y'all, hope you're good. You know what I'm saying? Be easy. It costs you nothing. Costs you nothing.
Costs you
right?
nothing. Exactly.
But it means everything.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of mentioned self-love a little bit, and I think that's underrated personally. So
Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, that triggered me because I am so good at showing love to others, right? Like I don't love myself hardly ever.
Mm-hmm.
I am the most critical voice in my life, and I just beat the shit out of myself.
Man.
And I've really been, I'm doing the therapy thing for the last 7 years. So I'm hopefully getting a little bit closer. I think being a little bit more patient and understanding with myself and the things that I went through. So I'm getting closer, but self-love is really hard. And it's hard to talk about, for me at least. It's not like you can often have a conversation, especially with other men, about like the way in which you treat or love yourself.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a good point too.
I agree with the struggle. It's a struggle.
The immature person in me right now just giggled at self-love, like self-love.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm working on it. I'm working.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a place for that too. I mean, yeah. I've never really struggled with that part, but anyway. Larry, sorry, I kicked you. I broke the road, Larry.
The road is broken. See the Rascal Flats in the background again.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I think for me, like I remember again, we talked about like adolescent love and middle school love, about how it's such a big deal to say like I love you to somebody, right? Like I remember you're dating and somebody in like middle school or high school, and like how that was such a big trigger moment. Like, oh my gosh, I told this girl that I love them. Now we're gonna be together forever, and I barely remember who those people are, right?
Right.
And I think it's into that concept of like what is. Like, as we realize what love is, before it was just, oh, I wanted this girl to like go to a dance with me or kiss me or call me her boyfriend. I think now, especially as we've been married, as we have a kid, I'm looking at like Teron's picture right behind him of him looking at his child. Like, I think the first time that I held my kid, that's one of the biggest times when it really like shaped what love was, right? And people often ask, like, how do you know you're in love? And to me, it's almost one of those things you just can't really describe. It's just, you just feel it. You see that person, you hold that person, you hug that person. And it's just one of those feelings like, hey, I would do anything for you. And I think that's, to me, has really shaped how I define love, how I give love, how I express love to other people. It's those people that I have, that I'm in their corner no matter what, right? I will go to bat for them. I will support them. I will fight for them. That's what, like, when I say I love you, that's what I mean to those people.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how, like, again, as we grow older and mature and have all these experiences, how it goes from this little, again, a checkbox on a note to holding hands to, again, this thing that I would die for that person. And how we really just define love.
Excellent way to put it.
Yeah.
Man, that got me thinking about so many different things.
There's a comedian who made a joke, and he said, you know, I didn't understand this until I became a parent. He said, but you know, I told my wife that I would die for her, and I meant that. Like, I meant that to the core. But when I had my kids, I realized something different. Like, I would die for my wife, but I would kill for my kids, right? And, and he makes this whole joke about it, like, and I can't kill for my wife because that's her parents' job, right? But like, you know, it's these different levels there, right? You hit the nail on the head, right? Like, it's these levels of love that you can kind of only talk about from an academic or theoretical perspective if you haven't had an opportunity to experience it, right? Like the idea of, asking a person perhaps who like doesn't have a kid about the concept of loving a kid, adopted, biological, foster, what, like when you have someone underneath you that like depends on you for life, right? It's a really hard concept to even think about, like even conceptualizing that, right? But then when it's real for you, like you have this person who looks at you for everything,
Everything.
expecting you to know everything, right? It's a different relationship that it's just hard to wrap your head around unless you've been,
I mean, they'll say, well, we have pets, and I mean, there is some similarities, but it's a little bit different on different level.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think it goes back, I think as you all talk about like sharing love and I think to me, I realize I don't like, I like you all, I don't do that as often as I should. I do this leadership presentation I used to do with college students about the power of gratitude and saying thanks to people. And one of my activities during this presentation is I had everyone take their cell phones out and find that person in their life that's had a big impact on them, that's helped them get to where they are, and simply just send them a text to you and say, hey, thank you, I appreciate you, I wouldn't be here without you. And the tears that happen in that activity, not only from the people receiving the text and as well as the people sending them, like it shows the power of just expressing that love and how often we don't do it unless someone nudges us to do it. Like I'm not gonna lie, after this, I'm probably gonna text my mom and dad and say, hey, sorry we haven't chatted you in a week. I love you. Hope everything's going well. Crazy things can happen. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in everything else in our lives. A simple I love you is easy to do, but something that we often just forget about and forget about the power of it too.
Yeah, and I mean, when we do, we feel happier and they feel happier too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a similar assignment for my students, and whenever they do it, they talk about how happy it makes them feel and how they should do it more. And I think there's a lesson there,
Like you said earlier, to like the world needs more love. I think that's one of the easiest ways to spread more love is just tell somebody you love them. Because again, the hope is, and often what happens, it will trigger them to do the same thing, and you just grow that love a lot more. So one of the easy things we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you show that to your kids, then hopefully they'll start to have that self-love inside themselves too, that voice in your head that's encouraging and supportive and loving. So even when you're not here, they'll have that. And I think that's huge. If you can create that for your kids, that's what parenting is about right there.
Yeah. That's deep, guys. I love that. How often do you get a chance to talk to other men about this kind of thing? I think, Taran, you mentioned when the idea kind of started, part of it was just like, I think there's a lot of voices that are elevated in our culture right now that are really feeling have me feeling hopeless. Right. And so part of starting this was like, I wanted to give people a chance to hear that, like, actually men are thinking, a lot of men are thinking very deeply and trying to grow and gain their perspective. And I don't think, if we don't get to engage in it a lot, I think most of society doesn't get to hear other men talk about these things together. And I think that there's some magic in being able to converse with that and put it out there, which is hopefully teaching others that it's okay, especially other men, that it's okay to have deep conversations, and it's okay to feel love, and it's okay that there are different kinds of love. Not everything is about romance and and lust and all of that. Like, you can have other forms of love. So I think that's really beautiful. Thank you guys for bringing it up.
Regarding hope, it's always darkest before dawn,
God, I hope that's true, because it feels pretty damn dark right now, Taylor. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I know I'm hidden up here in Minnesota and all, and we got it a little better, but it's certainly feeling a little bit bleak right now. So hope is definitely something we can handle. Taylor, as you've had those conversations in your class with your students, I mean, you've been teaching for a long time now. What's that conversation look like with college kids? And do you see it changing at all as you're getting a little older? Is that because they're coming in with different perspectives, or are you learning to teach it a little bit different? Like, what do those conversations look like in class?
Yeah, I think they do show love more, and that is a cultural change. I definitely have more girls in my class, by the way, than guys, and generally speaking, in psychology. There is one difference, and that is that the younger generation, it sounds like they're not planning to have kids. I think there's a lot of economic reasons. There's probably more than that, but that's one of the biggest changes, I think. Yeah, like marriage is something that majority of them talk about wanting, and talk about importance of relationships with their parents and each other and stuff. But yeah, having kids is something that many of them are just not planning on doing. I would say 75% probably. Most classes are not planning to have kids. So.
And that's regular. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. That's incredible. it matches what I'm seeing and hearing just with the people around me and that kind of thing. But that's cool.
Mm.
That's cool. Well, the other thing that I think a lot about when I think about love is love languages. So I don't know if y'all are familiar, right? There's the Love Languages book. Keelan and I read it together early in our marriage, I believe, because,
Awesome.
we're epic nerds. And
That was
so
smart though.
I think a lot about not just the type of love that I like to receive, right? So for those of you who aren't aware, listeners out there, there's 5 love languages: acts of service, gifts, physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation, right? So we can keep kind of coming back to those. And the way in which I experience love, I think, has changed over time as well, right? Like my love language in high school was probably more like physical touch. And now I think I'm much more in words of affirmation, not even just at home, but like at work, right? Like words of affirmation really make me feel that sense of belonging on the team, or like I belong. Or for me, a really big thing that I have to work on regularly is feeling good enough, right? So words of affirmation help me constantly remind myself, that self-love of like, yeah, you are good enough. Like you are doing everything you can do. So I was just kind of curious, as you think about love languages, first of all, do you know what your love language in terms of receiving love is? And then like, what's your partner's? And like, how do you go about adjusting that? Because what your partner needs from a love language might not be the way that you are typically showing love. You have to be intentional about meeting their love language. So I just wanted to kind of see what your guys' thoughts were.
Luckily, Jess and I are both acts of service love language folks. So it actually works out really well because to me, like I love when someone just does something for me without me asking, and it just kind of like shows up. And so I know what I love to see, and knowing that's hers as well, I'm able to replicate that a lot. Like one of my favorite things, little small things that I like to do that I know will show her love is that if she's out on a work trip or maybe she went to bed early, she's not feeling well, I will just go through the entire house, like clean all the dishes or check off all the chores and all those types of things, and never tell her that's going to happen. I always blame it on the elves. I'm like, oh yeah, the elves did it. It wasn't me. But I think it's, again, it just shows that additional effort in providing that service. And she does the same thing for me. So I think that give and take has been really good to be able to support each other and love each other in that way.
It's good that you speak the same language. That's
makes it easy.
very
Makes it much
convenient.
easy.
Is that rare? I feel like that might be rare. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like it to me. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out in a second. What about you guys?
D and I speak different languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's common.
No. So D is probably more like words of affirmation mixed with physical touch, because like I will literally be in my office and she'll like crack the door open and peek in to see if I'm in a meeting. And if I'm not, she'll just come over and give a hug. I'm like, you need something? She's like, no. And then just walk away. I'm like, and it's just, it's different. Like I didn't grow up that way. Right.
Yeah.
So, that's meaningful and it matters to her. Mine's quality time, right? Like I'm good, like chilling on the couch, right? Watching a TV show that we've watched 350,000 times where we can both quote it back to end to end. And I'll take that night in, night out over, hey, like just chilling. You know what I mean? That's which, brings up then, some of the conflict. Like I think from my perspective, and Taylor, you probably can speak to this too. Like I think sometimes some of the greatest conflict in relationships happens when we might be communicating on different wavelengths and you both believe that you're showing love, but it's not being received in that way because it's not that person's language.
I think a lot of couples run into problems with this, right? Because
Yep.
this is where you hear a guy saying like, I'm showing you I love you. And,
Right.
and she's like, no, you're not. And
That's right.
it's just because like they're missing each other on the highway.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got to know. You just have to know, right? Like, but the beauty of it is that like, it's not too late. Like you didn't have to do this at the beginning. Like if you could do it right now, today,
Mhm.
right? Go and have that conversation with your partner to figure out, hey, this is how I usually show up in love and this is what I need to feel love. How do you, right? Like even having that kind of conversation in and of itself is going to improve the way you understand each other. And even if you speak the same love language, right? I think there's spectrums, right? Like, so like, let's say your love language is words of affirmation, right? For one side, you could be, hey, you did a great job today. The other side could be, I'm going to write you a whole poem telling you how much I love everything,
Yep.
right? And there's a whole
Mhm.
spectrum of like
Mhm.
expectations that you can place on that too, right? So even speaking the same language, you have to have a conversation about to what degree do you need us to show up for each other within that language to be effective and meaning?
Yeah, that's a great point.
We'll say with that too, Teron, like my wife, Jess, and I had this conversation the other day, and we have these little conversation cards that we'll do in bed every once in a while. It's like
Beautiful. I've
yeah,
got
they're
those
great.
too, I think. Yeah.
And it's like, what is one of the things you had to come to terms with your partner? And to me, one of the things was when I was younger, my love language was words of affirmation. I like to write. I like to be very expressive with words. And so like when big things happen, Valentine's Day, anniversaries, things like that, I go above and beyond by like writing, like leading up to our wedding. I wrote every day. I had a little post-it note or a card that I gave to my wife for the 100 days leading up to our wedding, the 100 reasons why I loved you, right? Big effort.
Yeah.
All those stuff, right? I know. Go
yeah.
above and beyond, right?
Wow.
Killing it.
Yeah,
You're killing it,
I
bro.
love
You
it.
killing it.
Nice.
In
nice.
college,
Take
Keelan
notes.
and I did long distance, Larry.
Yeah.
I sent her a song printed out in the mail every single day we were apart that reminded me of her.
Wow.
So
See?
I just wanted to add that in case D
Yes.
is listening, that all of these big romantic gestures that Tehran hasn't done,
I'm
there
clearly
are some...
taking L's.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Larry.
No, that's good. Yes, so men out there, take
You
notes,
guys are
right?
setting the
Here's
bar. You guys are
Here's
setting
some
the
good
bar
ideas
so
for y'all,
high.
for sure, right? But then what often I felt, because I was also a words of affirmation person, that just my wife is not good with words and doing those types of things. So oftentimes I felt like that she didn't love me as much because I wasn't getting that back. And it wasn't that. It's, again, just knowing your partner's strengths, knowing your partner's comfort, having those conversations, and then coming to terms that, like Teron said, the way that people show love is just going to be a little different. And I think having those conversations early on can be really helpful. But not even early on, whenever you begin to have those feelings, I think can be really powerful. And so I think that's one thing that I had to come to terms with over the many years that we got together, is that it's not going to be like a Facebook post or a nice written note. It's going to be other ways that she shows love. And it's not less than what I do. It's just different.
That's well said. More physical touch, and she's more acts of service. So I just got to think about that. You know, like what is it that she would appreciate more, and try to do more of those acts of service, as many as I can, and knowing what she prefers. And yeah, we do speak a little bit different languages on that. And I noticed that the kids do too, which is also kind of interesting, right? So that's worth considering.
Dude, that's a
as well.
really good point.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's more dynamics in the house with love, as we've talked about, right? And my kids definitely... My daughter loves gifts. I don't know if that's just maybe all kids, like, to
Kid
be
thing,
fair.
right?
It might be a kid thing, but I'm telling you that I think long-term, that's the love language that my daughter really will appreciate. Like, I need to understand that and know that because... Yeah, Tehran,
I was gonna say too, right? That's a crazy dynamic to bring up there, because like let's slot in these other humans that live with us, right? D and my dynamic might be physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, but D's not looking for that from the kids. Like an act of like from the kids, acts of service is going to probably show up a little bit more. Like, hey, mom, we put the laundry away. We did the dishes, right? Like, so, you know, that's a really interesting, like, little wrinkle to add into it, that like maybe your love language changes too with the person that you're interacting with, right? Like maybe that's something to consider as well. So like, whereas D might have an expectation from me for X, Y, or Z, she might have something ABC for somebody else, right? Depending on that dynamic, that closeness, you know, the expectation that person places on her. Just pop into my mind. Just damn, it's complicated, right? Like it's more than probably what anybody can encompass in any one sitting.
It is, and there's expectations coming from all over the place, right? Like that doesn't, just because you've got your own family doesn't mean that like your parents don't have expectations about the way in which you're engaging in love or in a relationship with them. Other family members, friends that you got, like, the older you get, we're lucky because you're building a network and you're building a group of people, but the expectations of what you have to kind of live up to demonstrate love, they increase.
And even in like workplaces, right? Like when I was a people manager, right? The way that you support your direct reports are going to be very different. And how is it that person that when you reward them, they want to be out loud as anybody else, right? Is it something where you just, like my boss does this a lot, should have sent me like $10 over Venmo, say, hey, grab some coffee on me today, and like little things like that. And so I think, yeah, it shows up in so many different ways, and we just interact with so many different people. It's hard to always get it right, and you know, it's something you got to keep working on, I guess.
Yeah, I do think I might expect a bit more gifts at work, maybe. That would be nice. I don't know. I love that. No, that's very true. I was kind of hesitant to actually bring that up earlier, but I mean, it's not the same definition, obviously, as with my kids and with my wife, but I have supervised, I counted it up recently. I have supervised 94 people in my career, 94 full-timers, right? I've had a lot of experience with supervising, and I can tell you for a fact that I cared deeply and loved each one of them in their own unique way, right? Like I took that responsibility as their supervisor very seriously. I still check in with most of these folks. I still try and find a way to check in with them. I'm still cheering for them when they get a promotion. Like there is an element, I think, in being a good supervisor for me that I brought that love to my relationship. I would never say that, like if HR is listening, whatever. But for real, I think
you don't
I
include
think
that in your performance review.
Yeah,
Right.
I would
My
never
level of
mention
love.
any. Oh God, what have I done? But I don't supervise anybody now.
You're
I'm
good.
finally in my first non-supervising role. No love happening at work at this point. But no, I think that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Larry, because I do think that's real. Especially, all of us, at least at some point, have worked in higher education, right? Like we've got orientation and admissions and a faculty member, which is very different, Taylor. We won't get into that now. I don't really care for faculty members that much with these staff members.
Whoa.
You're great. I'm sure you're different than all the other, but no, that's really real. I think it was allowed more in higher ed for me to kind of demonstrate that care for your students and it's okay to emulate. And now that I work in corporate, that's very different. The way you show up and kind of the way you talk about. Anyway, not to jump too much on it, but I appreciate you bringing up work.
Well, I care about my students deeply, and that's one of the most exciting things I hear from them is, hey, I got this job. I got I got this accepted into this college. That's amazing, That's cool. But that to me is almost better than them saying, I really enjoy you I like that. I'm not saying I don't, but hearing about their successes, that means so much to me.
Oh, 100%. Now you're only like a few years away from my dad had you in class and he loved you. That's
100%.
coming next,
You're right.
Taylor.
You're right, dude. I got to get ready for that.
It's got to be. I mean, I don't know how long you've been teaching, but it's coming faster
I was teaching in my 20s, so it's been 10
coming
years.
Fast. I remember when my dad started
and
getting that. He was an elementary school teacher, and we'd be like, my dad had you in class, and he was like, oh my gosh. I think the last time, once he finally was ready to call it, was when somebody was like, my grandma had you. He's like, I'm done. I'm finished. Like,
time to go.
I can't do this anymore. It's beautiful.
Hey, so I had a basketball game a couple weeks ago, and it was their senior night. And one of the players came up to me and she goes, hey, this is college. She goes, hey, didn't you ref me in 5th grade? I was like, oh my God.
Dear God.
Oh my Lord.
Had to have.
Don't ask me those
right.
types of questions.
Immediate technical foul right there, Toronto.
Yeah.
Team up. You can't bring that up on the court.
Dude, you're gone.
Senior night. Speaking of love, I got a senior night tonight. My nephew, Ronnie, is having his senior night at Park Center High School in Minnesota. And anyway, there is a special moment of love in senior night, right? Like parents are so emotional, and I can relate more to that now than I ever could when I was going through it before. But I was actually kind of looking forward to, there's a lot of different love that's present on a night like senior night.
Love it.
That's totally cool too. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Shout out to Ronnie.
It's exciting.
I suppose, Tehran, you don't get a lot of other love though on the basketball court as a ref. I can't imagine there's a lot of love being shared with you. Is there?
Listen, I don't know if you understand this, but when people go to games that I referee, they are there to see me and only me. I am the show.
Tehran's muscles.
No one else.
He wears a shirt that's one size smaller than it's
There you
supposed
go.
to be,
Listen,
right? And he's
listen, no,
just ripping the biceps.
Yeah, you don't even know. I've transitioned to body paint. I just painted.
I love it. That makes sense.
No, it's not a whole lot of, but what I will say? What I will say about this, keeping it with love languages. In recent years, I've given myself permission to understand like the coaches' love languages. And communicate with them. And they were like, I know how this coach usually communicates, and I know that they would appreciate me communicating in this way. So next time I have a foul and I have to stand next to them and they're like, what did you see? I know like the level or layer beyond that question that they're trying to ask. So I'm going to answer both of those, right? So it applies across a lot of different spectrums, right? Like if you can understand how people want to be like appreciated or heard or felt, right? Like if you can like tap into that for just a half a second, and maybe even set aside a little bit of ego, right? Talking about the basketball court, but also talking about relationships, right? Like we give ourselves some permission to actually kind of, move from empathy and actually into like compassion, right? Which is like the act of trying to make it better, to remove suffering, right? To meet a person someplace.
Beautiful. I don't think most refs are like that, Teron. I don't know. Not
Right.
the games
Like
I'm going.
Listen, man, I told you, everybody's here to see me. They're here to see me.
And why shouldn't they be? I mean,
Right.
damn. Why shouldn't they be?
Right.
All right, fellas. Last thoughts. Any final thoughts about love that you want to impart on our listeners before we send them off on this week's challenge, which I'll talk about next.
I guess I would say the Martin Luther King quote that hate cannot push out hate, only love can do that. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good.
love
When
is
you love 'em,
powerful.
y'all. Send a
Love
text
is
message.
powerful.
Yeah, even if you gotta like even ease off of it a little bit and do the common like love ya, like just
Yeah.
YA, that's a little less intimate. You can get away with it a little bit more.
We
maybe.
that's a
say,
good point.
say
That's a good
y'all
point.
down here in chat.
Love
It's
y'all.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.
Yeah,
Love y'all.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Man,
We say,
I mean,
love you guys. We say that, or even if it's not guys, we just Midwest thing. I think, Chad. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've tried to say y'all more only because I'm trying to be more gender inclusive.
Yeah.
And then people think I'm from the South. And so I get asked a lot of questions about like, where are you
Wait
from?
a
I'm
minute.
like, no. I'm actually from here, but it's just, don't even worry about it. Teron, what are your parting thoughts for us on love?
regardless of how you were raised, where you are in life right now, where you want to be in the future, you deserve love. I don't care what crappy thing you've done or you think you've done, you deserve it. You deserve love. So when you receive it,
Accept
give
it.
yourself permission to accept it.
There you go.
Accept it. And don't be afraid to love yourself. And I think
Love
that's what I
yourself.
would share in
Yep.
all of the ways. Don't be afraid to love yourself. The challenge for this week is take one part of this conversation and have a conversation about love with someone else. And I actually encourage you to have different conversations with different people. If you are talking to a friend and maybe you've never come into that topic together, talk about love songs. You might be surprised what you can get someone to share just by bringing up a common topic like love songs. Anybody can talk about love songs. Anybody loves truly, madly, deeply. I'm sure of that. Even if it's not just a friend, have a conversation with your wife about love languages. Make sure if you don't know their love language, like think about it a little bit. Have a conversation with them. Those change over time. So that's my challenge to folks. Don't be afraid to text somebody. Don't be afraid to have a conversation about love. Folks, I appreciate you guys joining us. I loved having that conversation. This podcast is an excuse for me to get to have such a great conversation with some people that I really respect. So thank you for coming by and thank you for the great thoughts. Folks, we will see you in a couple of weeks and we'll have another exciting topic. And with that, I will talk to y'all later.
Peace.